Hey guys, Cinema Sick this year, and last night I went and saw The Hunger Games. Reason why I wanted to really go out and see that one is because I've been hearing such great things about it. Everybody's been talking about how great it is, how it's the next Twilight, it's the next Harry Potter. I wouldn't really go there, but everybody's talking about how great this is. It's the next big series to come out. So since I've heard such great things, I figured, well, I definitely got to check this movie out. I had some friends who went and saw it. They said it was great, and just from that, I figured definitely got to check this movie out. And it was great. I really did enjoy it. It was a fun, well, I shouldn't say fun. It was kind of twisted, but it was a good movie, a great story. It's not necessarily a story we haven't heard before. I mean, it's a bit more evolved than the stories we've heard before, but I mean, we've heard stories where people are basically forced to battle to the death before. Usually it's something like convicts or something like that, but so it's not necessarily a new story. I mean, I'm watching this, I was thinking of things like The Running Man and other stories, movies like that I've seen before, but it's a lot different than that because I kind of went into it expecting it to be very much like that because I heard other people comparing it to those movies, but it was different. There's a lot more going on in this movie than those movies have. Those movies are usually just there's convicts and it's they have to battle to the death for TV ratings and stuff like that. I mean, that's basically that's it. And they're usually action popcorn movies, and you're rooting for the main guy, but you don't necessarily care all at the same time. Whereas in this movie, it's different. There's a lot more emotion. There's a lot more feelings. You're getting really involved in the characters. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot more being done in this movie. What ends up happening is there's these districts, and they rose up and they had like a coup basically, and they lost. They lost miserably apparently, and the government now basically to punish them, basically every year takes a woman and a man, or a boy and girl. I mean, they could be old, young, from all the 12 districts, and they make them go into the Hunger Games and battle to the death, and whoever's left, they get basically rewarded and gifts showered upon them and whatnot, but everybody else dies. And that's the idea of the Hunger Games, is just kind of to, like I said, kind of punish these districts for what they did in the past. And it's a huge event. I mean, picture the Super Bowl times a billion. Everybody watches this. Everybody gets really into it. It's really, really, it's a huge money-making TV show, basically. It's only once a year, but again, it's a huge thing, just like like the Super Bowl was. So, or Super Bowl is, I should say. There's sponsors, all this stuff going on, and just it's a huge money-making ordeal. So of course, it's a bit of big capitalistic thing. Everybody they want to make money off this, and it's sort of, I mean, they even say in the movie, it's sort of gone from them just kind of paying for what they did to now it's more of a big money-making TV thing. So even the people putting on the show know that it's really not about them paying for what they did. It's not about a punishment really anymore so much as it is just about a money-making TV show. And that makes the movie a bit more interesting, and you get really involved in our main character. Her sister's actually chosen for the games, but her sister's like really little, so obviously she doesn't want her sister being in the game, so she steps up and basically sacrifices herself and says, no, I'll go to the Hunger Games. So they take her instead. And the whole rest of the movie is basically them kind of setting up what the Hunger Games are about, and then finally them going into the Hunger Games and battling to the death. The movie, I really like the way it was set up. I thought it was great. I really like the fact that you get to know the character a little bit in the beginning, and then you go into again, like I said, they set the games up. They kind of like explain to you what the games are about, and they show the characters getting ready, and you kind of get a feel for the whole, what the games are all about. And like I said, the fact that there are sponsors and everybody wants to get sponsored, because if you get sponsored, you get helped a little bit. And basically, it's sort of like the people with the more sponsors kind of get the more special treatment. They'll get things like sent to them throughout the games. The more sponsors you have, the more stuff you get kind of sent to you from the sponsors throughout the games. So you definitely want to have sponsors. So you just learn about the games, and I really like how that was set up. And then finally we get into the games and we watch everybody battle to the death. And I thought the movie, again, like I said, did really well setting itself up and the way it flowed. I really enjoyed that. I would say the downfall, it felt like it was a little bit, I don't want to say rushed necessarily, but it felt like maybe like a 3-hour movie compressed into a 2-hour movie. Because a lot of stuff I thought happened a little bit too quickly. Like some characters disappeared too quickly. Some stuff they try to set up just happened really, really quickly. I thought even just the Hunger Games in themselves, I really would have liked to see more people struggling and trying to survive. It just felt maybe a little bit too rushed. Sort of. I mean, it worked, and it's not like I left the movie thinking like, wow, this movie should have been a lot longer. Not necessarily. It worked and it was okay. It's one of the few times I felt like a movie that should have been longer. It was okay being 2 hours long, but in the end, I would have liked to have seen maybe like a 3-hour movie, or even, cutting this down to maybe an hour and a half, 2 hour and a half movies or something like that. But they probably don't want to do that for their first movie. I'm assuming future books they'll probably do that. That seems to be the new thing they do with a book series. But yeah, it could have been a bit longer because I thought we could have gotten more involved in the characters, and we could have and there's a guy mowing the lawn, sorry. We could have gotten more involved in the characters. We could have seen a bit more struggling and whatnot. I think that's what we could have got. I would have liked to see the Hunger Games drawn out, because everything up to that was pretty good. I mean, getting to know the character in the beginning in her hometown, and then kind of the build up to the actual Hunger Games and getting ready for the Hunger Games, I thought all that was pretty good and a good length of time. But the Hunger Games themselves, I think, should have been a bit, like I said, a bit more drawn out. I would have liked to have seen more going on during them. I would have liked to have seen more characters too. I mean, I know we're trying to get really involved in the main characters of the movie, but I would have liked to have seen some more of the characters doing whatever they're doing. Them trying to get them trying to survive and whatnot. Also, would like to see a little bit more about them in the beginning too, because we see basically District 12 in the beginning, and then we don't really see any other districts at all. I mean, we get glimpses of them for the most part, but I would like to have seen a lot more of the other 11 districts and what they're about, sort of, because a lot of them, they're all kind of different. One's like a coal mining town, and one's like nuclear town, and they all have like their own little things going on in these towns. They're all their own kind of towns, and I would have liked to have seen what the other towns were about. Because one of the towns actually, they raised all their they raised like a bunch of kids to be these like extreme fighters, and they basically they want to be in these games. It's not, I mean, instead of being chosen, they actually volunteer for the Hunger Games, and they're these great warriors. I mean, they're not super good, but they're for what they are, they're good because they were raised to be in these games, basically. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that about that too. So that was kind of a downfall. I would have liked to have seen some more of the districts as opposed to just District 12 and that was it. But I'm sort of nitpicking here because the movie, like I said, it was actually really good. Would I say it necessarily lived up to the hype that the movie's getting? Yeah, I see. I don't know. Maybe because I look at things like the Harry Potter series, and what I've said, the first 2 movies lived up to the hype that the series was getting. No, I would have been like, oh, they were good movies, but they don't necessarily live up to the hype. But once we got into the 3rd Harry Potter book, then I'm like, okay, now we're living up to the hype. So I kind of could see that happening with the Hunger Games. The first movie here, I thought was great. I thought it was really well done. I would highly recommend it. But this movie's getting just huge hype, and I'm just thinking, good, yes, really good, yeah, but necessarily living up to all the hype it's getting, not necessarily. But I could see, like I said, in the future, I could see the series definitely living up to the hype. And I know, it is based on a book series. I know the book series is very popular, and so I haven't read the book series. I don't really plan on reading the book series. I'm just gonna go simply by the movies. So I could see this getting pretty good. I like where they left off too. I like that they actually went all throughout the Hunger Games. You got the 2 winners from District 12, and then I really like that. I like how they didn't. I kept thinking, are they going to end like in the middle of the game or something like that, and then the second movie's going to pick up in the game or something like that. But no, they actually ended. We have our winners. So spoiler alert here, but we have our winners from District 12 because of course they're going to win. I mean, if you didn't see that coming, that's kind of ridiculous. Of course they're going to win. So you have your winners, but they kind of showed up. The main girl in the movie, she kind of showed up. The people who put on the Hunger Games, and the guy who's in charge of all the Hunger Games, he's pretty pissed off about the fact that he basically got showed up, and that is not what he wants. So I like how they end the movie with them, winning, and they're kind of like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen now. And then the last scene in the movie is the main guy who puts on the Hunger Games. He's looking all pissed off, and he kind of walks off, and you kind of tell, the gears in his head are turning. Something's going to happen. He's not happy. He's going to do something about this. He's going to, I guess you could say, kind of get his revenge. Kind of, basically, he's going to do something to these two people who won. Even though they won the Hunger Games, he's going to do something because he's not happy the fact that they showed him up and kind of made him look like a fool, basically. So something's going to happen now, and I look forward to seeing that, because if they would have ended the movie where, it would have been like, not quite the end of the Hunger Games, and the next movie would have picked up during the Hunger Games or something like that, that you would have been like, okay, I'm kind of curious to see what happens, but you wouldn't have been as wanting to see what happens now, because now it's like, well, they won, so what's going to happen now? They're kind of supposed to be just left alone, but, that's not going to happen. The main guy who puts on the Hunger Games, he's going to come back on them somehow. Something's going to happen here, and you want to know what's going to happen. You want to know, what is this guy going to do to these two people, and because he's got some power, and he's got, he can definitely do something about this. So you're very curious to see what's about to happen, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next movie. And again, I know it's a book series. I know a lot of people probably already know what happens and whatnot, so please don't tell me, because I'm definitely looking forward to finding out what happens. It should be good. This is definitely a series I'm looking to get into. Again, I don't see myself getting into this like I did with the Harry Potter series or anything like that, but I do see myself really enjoying this series and definitely wanting to see all the following movies. So again, it was definitely a good movie, and I would definitely recommend it. I really did enjoy it. But we also have a kind of like a underlining love triangle story going on in this movie as well, and that does sort of get me a little bit scared, because the last thing I want is for this series to turn into a sappy love story like Twilight or something like that. I don't want that. I still want these movies to be kind of raw and gritty, even though they weren't super raw and gritty, but I still want them to be, kind of a dark sort of movie like that, where you're really wrapped up and invested into these Hunger Games. I don't want the movie becoming a love triangle, because the main girl in the movie, she kind of has this thing going on sort of with this guy back from District 12. He likes her, she kind of likes him, but then the guy, the other boy who is also in the Hunger Games from District 12, he ends up liking her, and there's sort of something going on during the games, but you don't quite know if it's just for show, or are there feelings there at all? You're not sure. But then at the end of the games, she kind of says like, oh, or the guy says, what are we going to do now that we won? And she basically says, well, we'll just kind of forget this ever happened, put this all behind us. And he's like, I don't want to forget about this. So, you kind of could tell maybe she's not really into the guy so much, but he's definitely still into her. He's got a huge crush on her. So, it does get me a little worried. Last thing I need here is, Twilight again. So I don't want another a love triangle story. I'm hoping we still stick to something like this movie was, something kind of, where you're watching a bunch of people basically survive for their life and you get into the characters that way. I just don't want a love triangle story. So again, I haven't read the books, so I don't know if that's where we're headed. Hopefully not. But I guess we'll see. I'm really trying to think if there's anything else that I would say good or bad about the movie. Again, not necessarily. Like as I said, it is sort of a premises that we've sort of seen before, but it is more involved. You do get more into the characters. There's a lot more going on than just simply people battling against each other to the death. It's a more evolved story than that, which I really like. So definitely is that going for it. Like I said, the negatives were that I thought it could have been a little longer. I would like to have seen some more of the other people in the movie, some more of the other districts, even though we are trying to get, involved in our main characters. Still would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the other characters, just to kind of see what they're about and get a feel for the other districts. That would have been nice. But really, besides that, I mean, again, that's sort of just nitpicking there. So really, it was a good movie that I would definitely recommend everybody seeing. Now, would I say you should see it in the theaters? Not necessarily. It wasn't really big and epic, and there wasn't huge things going on that you want to see, that would make you really want to see it in the theaters. I know a lot of people there was a huge line for the IMAX when we were there. We saw it in just regular theater. We didn't see it in IMAX. But I remember after watching the movie thinking, why would anybody really want to see this in IMAX? It's not really an IMAX movie. I mean, the Harry Potter movies, there's a lot going on in those movies. Things flying around and big battles and all kinds of stuff going on. They're big epic movies, and you kind of want to see them in IMAX. But this movie, it's a lot of people just kind of running around the woods, which is great. It's a fun movie, but not really IMAX worthy, I wouldn't think, or even really seeing it in the theater worthy. I don't really think it is. It's just there wasn't enough big epic things going on that would really warrant seeing it on the big screen. So I would say if you're definitely interested in seeing this movie, I mean, unless you really, 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 really want to see it and spend the money, sure, then go to the theater, obviously. But if you're just kind of thinking, well, I definitely want to check it out, but you're in no rush to see it, I would wait to rent it, or, if you're thinking about buying it, yeah. I mean, it was good enough that I would recommend buying it. It was a good movie. It's definitely something you're going to want in the collection, I think. It's definitely something I'm putting in my collection. I thought it was a great film. But, if you're looking, if you want to see it, but like I said, you can wait till it comes out the Redbox or Netflix or your local rental store, something like that, and just give it a rent, or like I said, or pick it up. If you're already going to spend the money, I mean, how much is a movie ticket these days? I mean, it's like $15 to go see a movie nowadays. You might as well just wait to buy it on Blu-ray or DVD when it comes out. So, yeah, I would say nothing you need to see in theaters. If you can wait, give it a rent or buy it when it comes out. It's just not worth seeing in the theaters and wasting your money. I personally don't feel it, because it wasn't really epic enough to really warrant that. There wasn't really enough big, huge things going on in the movie. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I guess I'm 15 minutes into talking about this film now, so I'm just going to wrap it up and say, yeah, it was a great movie. I would definitely recommend it. Like I said, it's living up to the hype. Sort of. It was a really, really good movie that I really got into and really enjoyed. And the full 2 hours, I was very involved in the movie, and it was definitely a really good film. Not necessarily huge and epic per se yet. I could see it getting there, but not necessarily yet. So would I say it lives up to the hype? Like I said, sort of. It sort of is living up to the hype in the sense that it is a really good movie, and I would definitely recommend it. Again, not necessarily in the theaters, but definitely recommend seeing it at some point, because it was a lot of fun, and I did enjoy the movie. I did enjoy the story, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing where the story's going to go and what's going to happen next. Like I said, the main guy putting on the show, he's going to do something, and he's kind of an evil bastard, and you just can't wait to see what's going to happen next. So that's it. Gonna wrap it up there. Like I said, Hunger Games, great movie. I would definitely recommend checking it out. It was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it. Actually, before I go, I just thought of one last thing that I kind of wanted to touch on that did sort of, it was sort of a downfall. It's something that did upset me. I had heard the books were pretty raw and pretty gritty. Again, I haven't read them, so I don't really know, but I hear there's a lot more violence and a lot more grittiness and a lot more rawness in the books than there were in the movie. And I thought that was something the movie was sort of lacking. The fact that I would have liked to have seen it to be a bit more darker, that would have gotten you more into the characters. It would have made you kind of hate the games more, just to see, more bloodshed and see more violence and get a feel for that these characters in this movie, they're trying to survive, and they're just going to go out and just brutally murder you to survive these games. I kind of would like to have seen a bit more of that. I just thought, they held back a bit, which I know they did to get a PG-13 rating, because if they would have made the movie too violent, obviously it would have got an R rating, and that would have hurt their audience, because I know this is kind of, for kids under the age of 18, I know a lot of them are reading these books, so I know that would have sort of hurt their audience, and I get why they did that, but I would have liked to have seen it. I would have liked to have seen a more dark, kind of edgy, raw sort of movie where, all the movie would have been nice like that, but especially during the Hunger Games, I would have liked to have seen that, just to kind of get what the Hunger Games were about. And that kind of goes into the whole, like I said, the Hunger Games themselves in the movie should have been stretched out a bit more. I think it should have been stretched out a bit more, and you should have just seen survival. So you should have seen these people going through a lot more and going through the hardships of trying to survive this game. And on top of it, you should have seen, more blood and more people brutally being murdered, and things shouldn't have been off camera. Like this guy at one point smashes a girl's head into a wall to kill her. They should have shown that, not to be all like, I want to see all the bloodshed or anything like that. I don't want this to be a slash movie, but I think you would have, it would have been cringeworthy, and that would have given you kind of like, would have made you really be like, it must be really bad in these games, as opposed to it being off camera, which, I know they say, the less you see, the more you kind of imagine and whatnot. Yeah, but it's so quick, and it's kind of crazy, but I think if you would have seen it, you would have gotten that, that just, sort of, like, wow, this is what the games are about sort of feel. So I thought that was kind of, I thought they shouldn't have done that. The movie probably should have been R. It should have had an R rating. It should have been a lot darker, a lot grittier. Because, like I said, I heard the book was. I heard there's a lot more violence in the book, and the book's a lot more graphic. And obviously the book's probably a lot more better, as it is 99.9% of the times. But I would have liked to have seen that. I would have liked to have seen more edge, more grittiness, more darkness, just to give you that feel of what the games were about. So you almost feel like you're there. You feel like you're part of the game. You're really hating these games, which you're kind of supposed to do. You're obviously supposed to be against the idea of the Hunger Games in the first place. I mean, that's one of the main purposes of the movies, to make you feel that these are horrible, horrible things that are happening. These games are a horrible spectator event. So, to make you really hate these games, they should have made it feel more gritty and more dark than it was. I mean, they did a good job. It was portrayed, but just not as much as it could have been. I thought they could have done more to make you really hate these games. But I understand why they didn't do that. They wanted a PG-13 rating. They didn't want an R rating. They wanted to get the teens in to see this movie. So I understand why they did that. But I don't know. Just something I quickly thought of that I would have liked to have seen. So again, that's it, guys. I'll see ya.